motivation for this was I wanted to do work that was more universal, and I didn't want to focus on work that was like Latino imagery. I mean, the whole concept was about racial profiling, but I wanted to have a bigger audience as far as like galleries and people looking at my work. So I was focusing on the visuals to be more universal. And on this one, it was focusing on doing something that anyone can relate to. This model, she was really cool. She knew 5 languages, or she knows 5 languages. She knows how to cook like gourmet food. She's an amazing dancer, and she paints abstract and realism art. I met her in Germany. So here is more what I was going for, like about doing a portrait without showing the face. But after this, I was trying to give you less information about who they were, so I started looking for models that had shaved heads. This way I can have something that was more universal and more neutral. 4 by 4 inches, it's really small. What's really funny about this piece is that a collector of mine really wanted it, and I told him, I really want to keep this piece, I don't want to sell it. He goes, well, you know, when I met him, I think he was like 70. He goes, well, I'm gonna die soon and my collection is gonna go to a museum. I go, all right, I'll sell it to him. So I sold it to him, and 10 years later, I saw him at a party. I go, hey man, I thought you were gonna die. I go, I want my piece back, you know, you're still alive. So it's a true story, you know. He's probably still alive knowing him, you know. So this is the same model, but 3/4. So here's where I found people with shaved heads. And this was more what I was looking for in doing like a universal portrait. Because I wanted to do a portrait where you didn't know if it was a male, female, or able to figure out where they were from, like identity. I say that because the one problem with Latino art is that the artists get pigeonholed and they get like a limited audience, and they get as far as like galleries, they have a limited amount of galleries that are interested in showing their work. So I didn't want to have any limitations, and I wanted to focus on just being an artist and being accepted as one. So when I did this body of work, I was able to achieve my goals. Same angle, but more showing the full body. It's more like a study. So here's where I went from the drawing to the painting. This is about 12 by 12 inches. And with this one idea alone, like my whole career took off with this one concept. It's amazing. Like I went from just being like a regular artist in the art scene to being famous to like making like $18,000 a month. But I was, you know, I thought it was gonna keep on coming, so I kept on spending it, you know. And then eventually, didn't have anything, but. Bought a lot of sushi, took my friends out to eat. Oh, and I even bought a Porsche, cost me $105,000. So here's the same concept, but full figure. And I wanted to see what would happen when I would go full figure, so it's more about confrontation than the other ones were more about something else. But the original, the motivation behind this was about racial profiling. It's like the size of the door. It's like 76 inches by 33. So then I started to make up my own figures from different photographs, like the upper part is a female and from the waist down is a male. I wanted to create, like again, I wanted to create a portrait of a figure where you didn't know if it was male or female. This one's at the La Jolla Museum, and it's like 60 by 48 inches. So same everything, but just a different model. This one's at LACMA. LACMA Museum has this one. I wanted to do some paintings of jails, and then when I came down to painting the jails, I wasn't happy with what I had. So as I was leaving the jails in Compton, I noticed these houses that were painted with candy-coated colors around the jail. And they were painted that way to hide the idea there was a jail in the community. So I started to do paintings of the houses. Of course, it didn't have trees like this, but it was more of to create like an abstraction of the house. This one is actually like the same size that you see on the screen. That's what it is in person. I went to the collector's home in San Francisco. He had it on his mantle, and I saw that there was like a little bit of I don't know, lint or something on the painting. And I was about to touch it and to remove the lint, and the collector was like, "Hey, don't touch it." So when he wasn't looking, I touched it, you know. Anyway, it's my painting, I know how to touch it. This one is going to be at the LACMA show in June. I think it's in June, I guess. LACMA is LA County Museum of Art. This is the one of the most. I made this painting like in 2016. The others were 2003. And when I painted, I didn't know what was I thinking, and then afterwards I realized that it was a picture of the projects where I was raised. And I wasn't trying to do that, it just kind of came out that way. This is a portrait of Amber. It had to be shot in this angle because it was the dark colors were getting a lot of glare that you couldn't photograph it. It's a painting of Brenda wearing makeup. We just played around with the makeup. She really doesn't wear her makeup that way. I just wanted to mess around and see what it would look like. This is the one right here. When I was doing these fighters, I wanted to capture the violence of boxing and compare it to the violence towards the black male. Like, it's very disturbing what you see in the news about these black males getting killed by the cops. So I just did like some regular portraits, and then on some, like this one's over here, I just focused on like the blood and the violence of boxing, and trying to make a comparison to the violence towards the black male. So like in this one, you really don't know if he's a boxer or if he's just someone that's in a riot, or caught between police violence or some other kind of violence. So one on the side. This is a gun series that I'm working on right now. For this painting, I wanted to capture the tension of the gun, and before making that mark on top, The gun was just a gun on this table, and then I wanted some more tension, so I grabbed some paint and just smeared it on top, and I think I captured what I was looking for. And this painting is really small. It's like 8 by 10 inches. So I'm doing a series right now of 9 gun paintings with food. When I was 9 years old, age of 16, my dad would have me bring him food to his room. Of course, he didn't drink coffee. This is me thinking about the paintings. This is me like the coffee that I have every morning. These are about 14 by 16 inches. So this show is going to be in the fall. If you want to come to the show, just add me on Facebook or Instagram, and then I'll post the invite, and you're more than welcome to come. So here is a glass of water and gun. We're almost done if you want to go through it. Of course, I wouldn't bring 3 bananas, but 3 look better than 1, so I put 3 bananas in this painting. I think they work outside of the story that motivated me to paint these paintings. I think, because guns are always in the news, so everyone has some kind of like story about that, or they heard something. My dad was very minimal. When he passed away, everything he left behind was in a suitcase, and one of the things that was in the suitcase was the gun. And supposedly he gave it to my brother, but I've been the one that's been using it in these still lives. And I want to do a mold out of it and make an edition of guns and paint them, and do all kinds of funny stuff to them and just sell them. I think that's it. Whatever question you have, well, that's it. I'll be happy to answer.
Any questions? I know that all of you have a question to ask, just like we practiced last week. So don't feel shy, people. Just raise your hand, or we can start from in alignment. And then just say your name.
My name is Nani Kallenberg. My dad also graduated from Art Center, and most of his work is acrylic on canvas. I just wanted to know what kind of medium you use for most of your work.
I've been to your house, yeah. I know you.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I use oil. Yeah, I use oil on canvas. And of course, the early ones were drawings.
Are any of your surfaces, do you ever use wood panel?
Oh, it's oil on canvas over panel.
Okay.
And the reason why I put panel, because I want to press into the canvas, and I don't want the material to warp or to extend.
Next question. Come on, people, don't be shy.
Would anyone like to form a line? Come on up.
Extra credit, come on, get in line.
Can I get extra credit too?
Yes, we'll give you an honorary degree.
Thank you for the presentation. My name's Rick. I'm in urban planning with Alvaro. I'd like to ask you about motivation and self-discipline when it comes to your art. The brief sketch you gave us of being at Pasadena City College was kind of being lost until you found that thing. And then, in my experience, the discipline and all those things are easy once you found it. So, is that a mystical process? What was your experience of finding your purpose to be an artist?
Well, I sucked at everything, and then that was the only thing, that I was able to do without anyone helping me. So But I was avoiding it because I had no reference. There was no one that I knew that was an artist. And then once I met artists, then that motivated me that I wanted to be like them. But I was avoiding it, and then once the teachers were recommending that I go to art school for illustration or fine art, then I took that path. And then once I was there, you know, with other students, and the motivation, it was really easy to get motivated to work. It was really easy to want to be your best, you know, because everyone else was doing the same thing. Especially it's an art school where everyone there was an artist. When you go to university, the art department is going to be small, and you're going to have other majors. When I went to UCLA, it was fun to be with other majors and to interact with other students from other majors.
Next question.
Hello, Gilbert Catalana from Ethnic and Movement Studies. Thank you very much for coming and sharing your work. This past weekend I saw Picasso and Rivera at the LACMA. My question is, like, how do LA artists like yourself, and particularly artists of color, get to show in LA? I mean, I go to a lot of museums and it's really hard to see, you know, the outstanding artists like yourself, you know, show their work. And how are you able to do it, and how can others also do it?
Well, you know, you have to go to art school. There's no way around it. Like, a lot of the Chicanos that I met early on as I was coming up, they were the first of their generation, even before that, like here in LA, to go to art school, so they didn't have anyone to look at. I mean, they had the old masters to look at. They had Diego Rivera to look at, or Frida, but they didn't have friends of them that were like, let's say, John Baladeros or Gorango or Mugu. These artists didn't have someone to look at. So I looked at them, and then I also say, well, what else can I do to take it further? Well, that was to go to grad school. Most Chicanos, you know, I mean, right now there is a lot of Chicanos in grad school, but when I was going to grad school, I was always the only one in undergrad, and the only one in grad school. I think you have to play ball with everyone in order to be a part of the game, you know.
All right, thank you.
And I can attest to what you're saying, because there's been a major shift in the last 20 years of inclusion of people of color and women in the arts, and there's been a shift. It's slow. We need to keep going. And
yeah.
I, as a Latina curator myself, also, I think it's really important for curators to be of color and to be women and to be Latino, to be able to help pull it up as well, pull all of these artists up and recognize them as they should be recognized. So we'll have the next question. Everybody who has a question, please stay with the microphone, because otherwise you'll be blocking the cameras.
Hi everyone, I'm Luis Antonio Pachucano, Salomon. Great work.
Thank you.
It's amazing. What grabbed my attention was when you mentioned how colored people, for instance, African American portraits that you have represents how they stand strong, and how you show the blood and these boxers' face. My question is, like, how'd you come up with that idea? Did you just like sit down, just like draw it, or what made you wanna like connect both of those?
For this idea, well, we were raised in the projects, and we would see police brutality like every day, and I'm not exaggerating. It was like every day. So
yeah,
it was like very surreal. It's like a hyper reality what happens in the projects. So when I started to see the violence towards the black male in the last couple of years, I got really just affected by it, and I wanted to do something for myself, you know, to kind of like deal with it, because I was starting to become afraid of cops, like when they're behind you or something like that. So but it all goes back to being raised in the projects.
Oh, okay. And like, how long does it take you to like draw these portraits?
Well, that one there, probably like 2 hours, an hour and a half.
Oh, no.
Yeah, because I went to school enough, and I mastered the material,
Right.
so it happens really fast. sometimes happens so fast that I don't know if the painting is good, then I have to kind of sit on it for a while, and then if I don't destroy it, then I keep it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Ray Zaghiri, and I guess I just wanted to state that I noticed a lot of the motivation behind your paintings has a socio-political motivation behind it. So I guess my question is, what are your opinions and motivations on things that have gone on in recent times that drive your work?
Well, like, what's my current ideas that I'm working on?
Well, more like events going on in society and nowadays.
No, like right now I'm just focusing on these gun paintings. I think it also still goes back to the violence, like the shootings, you know, because I mean, I have the gun, and I wanted to do something with it. There was so much violence being raised in the projects that I've always wanted to capture the violence in my work. So when I see the violence towards like the black male or the violence of just police brutality, then that kind of like motivates me. But I'm not inspired by anything right now, other than just trying to finish these paintings.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jane Cuiaba, and I'm going to kind of piggyback on the last one, which is that art school's kind of known for being, like, training you to do really commercial products and also, like, car illustrations. And I don't see any cars. And how have you found that balance between trying to make a living and also doing art that really speaks to your heart? Like, how do you manage that?
Well, I teach, you know, so, but that's all my friends that do art mostly are part-time teachers or full-time teachers. And like, I also do commissions, you know, where I do portraits. So like if I do a portrait of someone's kid, that size, I charge like from $3,000 to $5,000. But you know, not that many kids want to pay that much money. So I got a limited amount of kids to paint.
Cool, thanks.
Just to speak to that, I mean, Omid, you're an artist, right? And you work, how many jobs? 3 jobs. And you're an artist, and you also show your work. You're exhibiting. He's a part-time faculty.
He was my student at North Grade.
So you know him. He did an amazing installation piece here for the faculty show just a few months ago.
That's great.
And it got a lot of attention. So, but I can vouch for that. Almost all the faculty are working, teaching multiple classes, sometimes teaching at multiple universities and colleges, and at the same time have to also keep their craft going and keep their craft up. So you're probably working 24/7. You're breathing art every day, and that's kind of what the life of an artist is these days. That's what it just seems. I don't know if you can relate.
Yeah. Then you need a private time of just sorting your ideas, you know, like.
And sleeping. Because you don't eat, right?
Yeah, I really would. Yeah. When I was going to Art Center, I literally made it on $1 a day. What I did is I got to know the cooks, and I would have them. I would buy a bowl of rice, but I would have them fill it up with meat and then cover it with rice. So I would only pay for $1.
Well, and I tell students that you don't go into art to make a lot of money, even though it can happen to the few lucky, but you do it because you love what you do. You do because it has meaning and fulfillment for you, and I think that that's something that a lot of people need to recognize.
Yeah, you know, it's an honor to be part of culture. Like it's really it's fun and exciting to, like, I'm gonna have a show in September, and to know that hundreds of people are gonna see the show and it's gonna be reviewed by magazines and to get all that support. I mean, and to be part of the dialogue that's currently going on, and it's a total honor. Like it's hard. Like even on a bad day, I can create a painting. So.
I think we have one more question.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, as a Latino, when I was growing up, I wanted to be a musician, and I mean, I ended up in college and doing something else, but I really wanted to pursue the life of a musician more, but my parents, I don't know, they kind of pushed me away from that because they were like, well, you're not going to make any money doing that. How did your parents take that, and was that a struggle, like as you were going through that?
Well, of course, my mom she wanted me to be a lawyer or a doctor, which that was like, I don't see how I could have done that for me, you know. Especially when you're having your girlfriends write your papers, it's not going to happen. So I mean, I got support, but not the kind of support that people normally give to their children. So I was just basically on my own doing my work, not knowing that I was at a really good school, and I was focusing on artists for support. I had a lot of outside support. I mean, my family supported me, especially as I started to exhibit. When they saw what it was about, and when they started to realize what art was about, you know, for me, and the impact that it was having in the family, then they started to support me more.
Share a little story too, because I think that's a struggle that happens with a lot of people in the arts, visual or performing, music. I also had the same problem. I had Latino parents that thought, you know, art was not the direction to go in, and I got pushed towards business. And I got a degree in business. I made my parents happy, but then I went back to school and did what I wanted, and I'm able to put those two things together now. And I think it's possible. I think you can pursue your passion and still make your parents happy. But it takes a lot of extra help and extra support, like you said, and just motivation and desire, and to really do what you really want to do. But in any case, I mean, I'm sure you'll find your way. One more question.
Hi, I'm Christine. I'm here on behalf of the Graduate Planning Student Association, and we just wanted to gift you with this basket from the farm store. It's very local.
Thank you.
So you guys visit the farm store. We just wanted to thank you for coming today, doing this artist lecture, and we want to thank you for having your art on display, and we're sure it's going to inspire a lot of students here.
Well, thank you.
I didn't get a basket. Isn't that organized? There's just a lot of wonderful, very insightful questions. You know, apart from being an artist and a teacher, Salomon has mentored a lot of students over the years, a lot of young people. And one of the things that he encouraged them to do is to pursue college, and then also pursue graduate school, to improve the skills. And then also to push them beyond their safe zone, right, or their homes. So a lot of artists that ended up getting accepted to schools in Boston or New York, he pretty much pushed them, and like literally pushed them. Go outside of your home, outside of your safe community, and explore. This is what I think, like this idea of being a risk taker, of taking those risks. Because a lot of times when you grow up in these very close-knit communities and families, it's scary especially for young women and young men to leave their homes. And he's able to be that mentor that he didn't have growing up. You know, and a lot of times, you know, when you grow up in a situation that we did in the projects, and we have someone here who also grew up in Mona Gardens, one of our students, is that it's a pretty bleak situation. So when anybody graduates from high school, it's like they made it. It's like they went to Mars. You know, they kill a pig and everything's like a big, you know, pachanga, because nobody graduates from high school in the projects. You know, it's when I believe in this idea that each generation needs to do better than the next. That's my philosophy. And when your parents didn't go to school, you know, our parents grew up in the rancho in Mexico, Michoacan. They literally didn't go to school at all. So for us, when we graduated elementary school, we already surpassed it. You know, that we already, you know, like we made it. Mama, you don't have to work anymore. You know, there's like the Murchison elementary school degree. So anything above that is icing on the cake. You know, graduating from high school. You know, when Salomon was at the Art Center, my mother, my father, one of the reasons they didn't discourage him is because they didn't know. Like they didn't know what college was. They didn't. I mean, most immigrants, they know, like, they think that going to college means being a doctor or lawyer. You know, vas a ser abogado, vas a ser doctor, a licenciado. You know, that's the thinking. And when you're not that, they're like, what are you going to do with that? But my parents were pretty much, they didn't have an understanding of the way the system worked. So they pretty much, at least for my brother and I, they pretty much let us do whatever we wanted. Bottom line, they never said no. They said no to my sisters because of the machismo, the sexism that we experience in Mexican cultures, traditional Mexican cultures. But literally for my brother and I, whatever we wanted to do, they just pretty much, okay, mijo, you know, vaya con Dios, and that was it. We could have joined the gang. Okay, mijo, be careful with that drive-by, you know, don't hit anybody. So when he started exhibiting, that's when my parents and my family were like, wow, we didn't know that was possible. So sometimes it's kind of funny the way it works is that by not putting boundaries, by not telling the kid no, so much can come out of that child, you know, and I think that's kind of what happened to us. You know, we're pretty much lucky and an outlier within the environment that we grew up. And I think that for me, you know, being here and showing all of you that there is no limits, really. I mean, I could say, like, in terms of skill-wise, like technical skill-wise, there's no one better than Salomon within Latinos and Chicanos in the history of the United States, period. And because he mastered the skill of an illustrator. And unfortunately, a lot of the Chicanos and Chicanas, Latinos and Latinas, African Americans haven't had that privilege to attend a very rigorous, expensive college, university that teach you those skills, those technical skills that allow you to exhibit at LACMA, you know, Gauguin, the most expensive gallery in the world, Whitney Biennial. And I don't say this like to show off or whatever because he's my brother. I say this because I want other people that are here, urban planners, architects, artists, musicians, and people that like to cook and have this creative side to them, that, you know, pursue those dreams. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. Don't let others, whether it's your parents or anybody else, you know, limit your ability, your potential, right?
Don't be afraid.
You know, don't be afraid and do, you know, reach for the stars. So with that, I would like to thank our co-sponsors. We're here because we have the students, a lot of the ethnic studies students help promote the event. A lot of the urban planning students at the undergrad and graduate help promote the event. The UCLA Chicano Studies Research Center help promote the event where Salomon's going to be a visiting scholar this fall. Also, we have Urban Los Angeles, and we have other people that try to understand the importance of the arts, especially in this time that we're living today where the arts are going to be cut by this administration, is that we cannot allow for the arts to be killed, for the arts to have diminished and show the value in creativity. So with that, like we say in Mexico and East LA, muchas gracias.